What do you say, everybody? And Roll Tide, welcome to Cover Crimson. We're going to talk Bama and the defensive side of the football. What does Kane Wommack's defense look like? How about players that you can't not notice in that secondary? Xavier Brown. I saw him on a Daniel Moore print, but now he's got a year under his belt. And how about that transfer from way out west in Utah, Cam Calhoun? Yeah, that guy. This is an impact type player, and we're going to get into why. We're going to talk about Alabama's defense as we close in on kickoff between the Crimson Tide and the Florida State Seminoles, just 16 days away. Can you believe that? I can't. All right, let's go. All right, guys, welcome to the show. We're brought to you by our friends at Pearl River Resort, Philadelphia, Mississippi. Jake Coker and I are going to be there next week. And we want you guys to go. Dancing Rabbit Golf Course. It's the Augusta you can play. They also have the Timeout Sports Lounge, Vegas-style sports book. Bet Bama all the way, right? Blitz Bama Blitz. You can do that at Golden Moon Casino at the sports book. 20 big screen TVs, full-size bar. They got the window, if you need somebody to help you there. They got the kiosk. They got the individual kiosks. They got it all. And it's that time of year. Bama, Florida State. We'll get into the odds on this later down the road. But today we wanted to focus on the defensive players that are standing out, Clint. And you wonder, can Bama stop the run? Can they get after the quarterback? You feel very comfortable about the secondary right now, Kane Wommack's defense.
Yeah, that's so Kane Wommack, he met with the media yesterday, and a lot of great questions. And what I love about Wommack is that he's willing to give you good answers, willing to be up front, tell you shortcomings, tell you things they're working on. He's obviously not going to get into game planning or anything like that, but for the most part, I mean, he'll kind of share exactly how they're feeling. And some of the guys, when asked, I think the question was framed, guys who have kind of, surprised you or changed, your perception of them throughout the course of camp. He brought up several players. And obviously the first was Deshaun Jones, who, was a little bit banged up back during the spring, obviously projected to start at Husky. He's been making great strides at Husky, according to Kane Wommack. So that was the first guy he brought up. He brought up Jordan Renaud, who, he says continues to grow and improve. Really, really pleased with him. We'll get into all these guys here in just a second. I'm just listing them out. Some of the young defensive linemen are really taking steps in the right direction. Mentions Isaiah Faga is doing a really good job. London Simmons is improving. Steve Boomois is improving. But just the first two was Faga and London Simmons. And that's really, we'll talk about the other guys here in just a second. That's where I wanted to start, because a lot of Alabama fans have been very concerned about this interior defensive line depth. And understandable. We love the frontline starters with Tim Keenan and James Smith. We love the second wave of guys with Jeremiah Beeman and Edric Hill. We know Kelby Collins is going to be a part of that equation, whether he's playing inside and out or just inside or however it ends up playing out. He's going to see some interior reps. There's no doubt about it. So we like that room. But when you're rotating 4 or 5, what happens if injuries start happening? And that's been the major concern. So, I think Boomois is still a pretty good ways away, from a technical standpoint, and just getting, the conditioning and everything else. Going to be a heck of a player in due time. But London Simmons is a guy who not only Kane Wommack, but Tim Keenan brought up as far as that's a guy who didn't enroll until the summer. This is a true freshman, but not only that, he's only been around for a couple of months, and he's already impressing. He's the how he's grading out in practice certainly been impressive. I thought he was much more further along as far as the technique and stuff than in Boomois when I was watching him go through those sled drills. 6'3", 303 pounds, probably going to play nose for Alabama. But then also Isaiah Faga, who is a redshirt freshman, didn't really play last year, but another former 3-star, wasn't highly recruited. But, he's playing probably more of that 3 technique. And, from what we hear, he's been doing pretty well too. So it's really encouraging from not only a 2025, but also beyond standpoint. I think it's much needed for this defensive line room that these guys are coming on strong.
Yeah. Well, look, they need it. I mean, this is an area where especially early in the season, when you have kind of a high-powered offense, sometimes it takes a while for a quarterback to be comfortable enough to really want to push the ball down the field, right? You don't take as many risks if you don't have to. And think about how many great Alabama teams started out with the defense leading. Now that was Nick Saban's thing, right? It was the defense. But I'm definitely excited to hear about guys like Zabion Brown, and I still see the Georgia interception, and all the hype that Alabama fans had when we got him, when we recruited him, brought him in, all the stars and everything else in his recruiting. But it does make you feel pretty good to hear that, especially when you're going to Tallahassee and you're playing Florida State.
Yeah, and Xavier Brown was another one that was mentioned as being a guy who's taken the next step. We'll certainly talk about him here in just a second because I think he just that's critical for Alabama. But with Deshaun Jones, the fact that people's got to realize he was playing perimeter corner a lot last year. Slowly started to move inside some, immediately started contributing once he did, but it's a different position, different requirements. And I thought he handled it extremely well, got more comfortable as the season went on, and then obviously ended up starting for Alabama at Husky in the bowl game against Michigan. But we've heard good things about Drake Kirkpatrick Jr. Cam Calhoun is a guy that they have brought up as far as his versatility and kind of what he brings to the table. He's playing both inside and out, but Deshaun Jones, you got perimeter corner skill set who's physical enough to hold up inside. I think that's really encouraging. Will there be some issues at times as far as certain things that are run at Deshaun Jones? That's a possibility. But from everything that we've heard, he's handling that transition, or I guess at this point, it's pretty much a complete transition. He's handled that extremely well. But Jordan Renaud is the other one to me that is worth bringing up because Kane Wommack brought him up and just said he's really, really pleased with him. We know that LT Overton is the headliner at Bandit. No doubt about it. From there, we think Jordan Renaud is going to be the number 2 Bandit. Now, that's not anything set in stone, but just he was that 3rd Bandit last year behind both Overton and Jamarian Latham. Latham moves over to Wolf, so you just make the assumption, unless it's Kelby Collins, who we've seen spending a lot of his time inside, so you probably don't think it's going to be him. Maybe it's Keon Keeley, but Jordan Renaud is the next guy in line. And last year, he played really out of control at times, was definitely played with his hair on fire, which I respect, but he always didn't really know what he was doing. And so he played fast, he played aggressive, went 100 miles an hour, which is what you want. Thinking too much and playing timid is not what you want from a defensive player. You'll eventually get everything down that you need, but and defense or offenses will take advantage if you don't know what you're doing. But I think that just having that mentality or that mindset is the better way to go about it. Now that he's getting more comfortable and confident playing in this Kane Wommack defense, understanding the responsibilities and everything, he's playing more under control, and I just think he's got the type of skill set where he can really help out at that bandit position. So I'm really encouraged about all the guys that Wommack brought up. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, he spoke to the media, after practice, and you definitely feel there's like a confidence there. I mean, he's a former head coach, so the press conferences are pretty easy for him. I love it when these guys get up and start talking. The guy that I worry about the most is Deontay Lawson, and it's how healthy he's going to be. He talked about Lawson, but Lawson at this point has been around so long, it kind of gives you that almost like another coach out on the field, right? And I think that's fantastic. We're going to talk about Calhoun, but let me tell you guys this. We're brought to you by Residence Inn by Ocean City. Our buddy Keith over there taking care of you guys out on the Maryland coast. The Boardwalk, Secrets Bar, the Green Turtle, a lot of great restaurants. I love crabs, so crab cakes and steamed crabs, and I even put crab imperial on top of my soft pretzels. That's the kind of guy I am. You guys may want to go check that out too. But the sunsets are beautiful. It's a great time of year to go check out the back Coastal Style Hotel of the Year, Residence Inn by Marriott. When you see like guys transfer in, like Cam Calhoun, and you're like, hey, what is he going to bring to the table? How is he going to impact the roster? How long is it going to take somebody like Calhoun to immediately like fit in? And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, right? This guy's just been like, all you hear about is Calhoun.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly been making an impression, and Xavier Brown too. Like so many guys in this secondary that is really encouraging. Like Xavier Brown, what he said about him was he said ZB was a guy that came in as a freshman and he made certain freshman mistakes, but he handled them like a veteran. And so that was and so it was really impressive to see the way that he would make a mistake and then get it fixed, and you wouldn't see that mistake again. He was able to sustain that correction as we talk about on defense. So he just, and this is something 100%. And Alabama had so many freshmen last year, whether you're talking about Jalen Mbakwe, Zay Mincy, Xavier Brown, Red Morgan. You had transfers, Deshaun Jones, Keon Sabb, like Damani Jackson. It was a secondary filled with transfers and freshmen. And everybody wonders, not only that, but also you're bringing in a new defensive coordinator. It's a new system. And people wonder why they had to be vanilla through a majority of last season. And I understand they continue to be vanilla to an extent, even in the bowl game. But as I've said, I know for a fact they were implementing some new things already. They just, first of all, based off of Michigan's offense and the fact that it was so one-dimensional and so limited, they didn't have to, reveal a whole lot of that. And I just don't think they wanted to put what they were working on tape for the 2025 season. So I think they're going to be more diverse in the back end. But Xavier Brown, we've talked about like these guys who went from being a first year starter who were good but had some moments where it's like you want back. I mean, obviously Kool-Aid McKinstry obviously didn't start every game like Xavier Brown, but he went through his growing pains as a part-time starter his first year. Tyrion Arnold did the same thing. His redshirt freshman year, he was a year behind Kool-Aid, but kind of followed in those footsteps, have had kind of a rough up and down first year as a part-time starter. But both of those two guys took that next step in year two as a starter, and they were absolutely phenomenal, all-American type of players. Well, Xavier Brown, I'm not guaranteeing that he's going to be an all-American, but this is a guy who is already showing immense talent and the ability to make clutch plays, like the interception against Georgia, like multiple plays last year was like, that was a big-time play from the freshman. It was all about more consistency. It was all about, getting more comfortable. And he certainly seems to be a guy who's doing that. And then Cam Calhoun, you need inside out versatility. And Deshaun Jones was kind of that guy last year. Now it seems to be Cam Calhoun. And I don't know where he's primarily going to play. I've seen people, depth chart projections who are saying he's a co-starter along with Deshaun Jones. That's possible. I think it's Deshaun Jones' job to lose. And I could see it going in a number of different directions beyond that because I've heard good things about Drake Kirkpatrick Jr., but there's no doubt Cam Calhoun's going to be playing. He's a good player. He's the tenacity and scrappiness in which he plays with. You love the energy and all that stuff. I think it's infectious for the rest of the defense, but they definitely, we've talked a lot about the secondary throughout this offseason. They're trending exactly how they want them to trend. And it's been interesting because, Dijon Lee has been a little quiet in fall camp, hadn't generated as much buzz, but, obviously that's a guy that they really like as well.
Yeah. Well, how about Jalen Mbakwe? I know he's on the offensive side of the ball now, but we're not hearing anything about him at all, and even the fact that they relied on him heavily last year as a player on defense. And is there any kind of impact not having him on the defensive side of the ball?
I don't think they're going to skip a beat, to be honest. And Jalen Mbakwe is a really good player, and he would help the secondary. He would help the depth. There's no doubt. But I just think that no, I think on the back end they're in a really good spot. I've heard good things about Keon Sabb. Heard he looks a little bit more explosive. Didn't realize he was playing a majority of last season with a broken foot or some sort of injury to his foot. I don't know if it was necessarily broken, but definitely something that was kind of hindering him a little bit. And just you still saw him making plays. I'm curious to see what I've already put up my depth chart projections over at A2ZSports.com for the offense, currently working through the defense right now. But the safety room it's in really good shape too. Like, just looking at Ivan Taylor and hearing good things about him, like, he's come in as a guy, he's been as advertised. There hasn't been anybody that I have seen or heard where it's like, man, we were expecting this from him, whether it be we were expecting him to be showing more flashes, like Keelan Russell. Is he ready to be a dude right now? No, he's not, but he's certainly on track. They feel great about where he's at. Michael Carroll, Jackson Lloyd, what they expected to get out of those two guys, it's either slightly exceeded expectations or it's on track. Ivan Taylor, same thing. We expected this guy with his father being Ike Taylor to come in and immediately be ready to contribute if they need him. And he's been every bit of that. He's a guy who seems to get it. He's picked up the defense extremely quickly, just across the board. What they're needing from this freshman class, they're getting. And I mean, obviously that's really encouraging when you're trying to push for a national championship. You got holes on your depth chart and you're trying to get it filled. Some of these freshmen are ready to elevate. And something else I wanted to talk about real quick. I have no idea what it means, but I was going through the photo galleries because used to I would go through them pretty regularly because I would help share them over at Bama Online. But now that I'm not doing that, I grab photos when I need them for articles, but I don't really go through them and analyze them like I normally do. So I'm a few days late on this. Actually, I wonder if I could pull up I won't do it. I won't take the time, but there's one photo of LT Overton that's an up close. And I noticed that who's lining up in front of him in the shot is Justin Hill. And it's pretty blatant. It's Justin Hill. And the reason that's interesting is the Bandit is the strong side defensive end, essentially. The Wolf is the weak side player. So he would typically be on the opposite side as LT Overton. And yet not only was he out there with Overton, which I think is notable, and I want to say there was another player in the background that was another first-team player, but it was a super up-close shot, so you really can't tell. But it's interesting because it's like, okay, they're getting the Bandit and the Wolf on the same side, and I wonder what that means. Or do they have LT Overton playing on the inside? Maybe they got another Bandit on the other side, like a Jordan Renaud, and they got Justin Hill as a Wolf playing next to that 3 technique. Like, that's certainly possible too. But I did find that interesting because that's something that you typically don't see. So I'm excited to see exactly how Kane Wommack deploys this defense. We know he values versatility. He certainly did last year. He knows how to use that versatility. And, Alabama's got a lot of it. So I'm curious and excited to see how he deploys it in 2025.
Guys, I know you're excited about football and you want to look good. Crimson 20, that is our Roback promo code, 20% off when you use that promo code Crimson 20 at roback.com. I got to tell you, I'm probably going to get the polo that's got all the little miniature Bryant Denny stadiums across it. It's crimson. And so when you look, you're far back, you can't tell. And then when you're up, you're like, oh, there it is. But they've got a bunch of really cool gear at Roback. Crimson 20 is our promo code. You're going to get that on each of your email addresses when you sign up. So pretty exciting. I'm wondering about Bray Hubbard. I mean, like, now that we're buddies from the mullet toss, I think he's going to have a great year.
Yeah, the coaching staff loves where he's at. I mean, just from a leadership standpoint, from an impact standpoint, just how much of a seasoned vet he looked last year. It was, this is still a guy who was at the time still relatively new to playing safety. And so I was very surprised at how advanced he was, but there was also a lot of room for growth, not even close to being a completed product. And so I'm excited to see how he continues to grow, working this entire offseason as being the guy, along with Keon Sabb. And, I'll be curious to see what ends up happening there. So you had, I want to say both Keon Sabb and Bray Hubbard were both listed as free safeties last year, with Malachi Moore listed as the strong safety. And then when Keon Sabb goes down, Bray Hubbard moves into a starting role at free safety. Well, then when Malachi Moore was forced to miss the bowl game against Michigan, Bray Hubbard made the move from free to strong safety to take over for Malachi Moore, and Zay Mincy was inserted at free safety. So I'm curious to see now that Keon Sabb's going to be back. Will Bray Hubbard continue to work in the strong safety role, which is a lot of times like you're more single high. He's playing to the wide side of the field, but he's going to be the one that's playing a lot more free safety, single high safety snaps. Or will that be Keon Sabb? I'm excited to see how that ends up playing out. But they're very interchangeable, and they both do a lot of the same things well: length, size, willingness to come up and make tackles. I still think Bray Hubbard, definitely physical, definitely plays with his hair on fire, but it probably needs to, I'm sure he's continued to work on becoming a more secure tackler. And then Keon Sabb, pad level needs to be a little bit better. Definitely physical coming downhill, but sometimes would whiff on tackles when he would be way too high, wouldn't break down and make tackles. So one of the better safety duos in college football. But then you start talking about second line guys. Like if an SEC team was going into this season with Zay Mincy and Ivan Taylor as its two starting safeties with Cam Howard as kind of that third guy, I still think that would be a pretty damn good safety room. And then you add arguably the best safety duo in college football on top of that. Absolutely absurd, Mick. Love the entire group, but Bray Hubbard, as much as I like Keon Sabb, and I think he's going to make an impact on Sundays, I'm higher on Bray Hubbard than probably anybody.
Well, that's good news. I guess the other thing before we get off here, talking about the defense, my biggest concern, and you know this, is can we stop the run? Are we going to be able to stop the run? There were times against Michigan, couldn't stop the run. Oklahoma couldn't stop the run. Even some games that we won, we struggled against the run. Do we have the run fits to be able to make them throw and allow these ball hawk and secondary players to do their thing?
Yeah, I think the secondary is going to be better on that front. I just think it's a big, long secondary. It's physical. So a lot of the, you got to rally, make tackles, do all those things. I think the secondary is going to be in a good place. A lot of your edge play, there was so much rotation at Wolf last year with just Quay Russaw getting banged up, and Keanu Coote leaving and Quandarius Robinson going down. A lot of switching around and trying to get a lot of talent, but it's like it was just a revolving door, it felt like. I think that kind of hurt as far as some of the edge setting and stuff like that, even though I think Quay Russaw, when he was on the field, he did a good job of that, and I would fully expect that to continue. But I've talked about it as far as Nakai Hill-Green, second-level run fits. And something else that Kane Wommack talked about when he addressed the media yesterday was just how well that Deontay Lawson is doing. And that to me is super encouraging because first of all, I'd wondered, will he even participate in the first scrimmage? Well, we know that he did because there's a photo of him from the scrimmage, wasn't wearing a black no contact jersey or anything. He seemed to be a full go. And Kane Wommack even said they've been pushing him more than they were expecting to push him. And he's been holding up extremely well. So now I'm kind of left wondering, I'm doing these depth chart projections. I'm like, okay, probably going to put Deontay Lawson as the starting Mike to the field side, the space linebacker, even though I think Justin Jefferson would probably be the best fit for that. It could be Justin Jefferson if, he is the main starter next to Deontay Lawson.
Right.
Because, I think just between Lawson and Jefferson, he's the better space linebacker. But if it becomes more of a Nakai Hill-Green, Deontay Lawson, duo, Nakai Hill-Green, I think, is going to be playing to the boundary side. He's going to be playing that stinger will spot. So in that instance, it would be okay, Deontay Lawson, Mike. But where does the platoon happen? Is Deontay Lawson ready to assume his full-time every snap role? He might not be from the beginning, but it kind of seems like he's pretty close. We'll have to see how he looks out there, but if he's ready to be that guy, I think he's a 3-down player. Then the platoon probably becomes Nakai Hill-Green and Justin Jefferson, which I think is probably ideal, even though I love Justin Jefferson. I just think Nakai Hill-Green and what he brings from a run-stopping standpoint will be beneficial for the defense. But if Deontay Lawson is unable to be a full-time player, then you could see him platoon with either Nakai Hill-Green or Justin Jefferson. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. But just I was really encouraged hearing that news or that update on how Deontay Lawson's how he's progressing in fall camp.
Good. All right. We'll keep on previewing everything. Bama, Florida State, 16 big ones from kickoff. Tallahassee, like 2:30. between Alabama and Florida State down in Seminole country. It's a really fun matchup. It's a helmet game. Obviously, we call it the Coker Bowl for our colleague Jake Coker, who won national championships at both places, but he was the starting quarterback at the University of Alabama when he won there. So that's where his heart is, in this Coker Bowl. But Clint, anything else before we bid everyone farewell today?
No, it a lot of defense today. Obviously, with Kane Wommack going yesterday, we weren't able to do a show yesterday, but just I've already started diving into Florida State, and I've been looking at some stuff all throughout the offseason. I didn't want to do it too early. You know, we're still a little over 2 weeks away from the game, so wanted to leave some meat on the bone for once game week actually rolls around. But I want people to know, been diving into Florida State, everything Tommy Castellanos is going to bring to the table from a quarterback perspective, Gus Malzahn as a play caller, what Florida State's bringing back, what they've added, which is a ton, you know, a lot of turnover and stuff. So you really don't know fully what to make of Florida State one way or another. But I've been diving into both sides of the football. And so we'll be, you know, here pretty soon. We'll be doing like a Alabama offense versus Florida State defense, and then vice versa, diving into the weeds, sharing everything you need to know about both teams and how they match up and things to look out for. It's going to be a lot of fun, man. I mean, we're just over 1 week away from seeing college football, you know, for week 0, and then just over 2 weeks for Alabama. It's finally starting to get closer, brother.
Yeah, can't wait, man. Can't wait. We're brought to you by Pearl River Resort. One of the things we talk about over there are all the great events and concerts, including Jeff Dunham, the comedian, going to be there this weekend. You got Aaron Lewis and the State Liners. They're coming in October. And our buddy Tracy Lawrence is going to be there November 15th, 8 o'clock. All those at the Silver Star Convention Center. And tickets obviously available there as well. But Pearl River Resort brings you the show on a daily basis. You got Dancing Rabbit Golf Course. We talked about the Timeout Sports Lounge, the Vegas-style sports book right there in Golden Moon Casino, the water park, which this time of year is still really hot out there, getting that lazy river. Maybe you bring the kids, let them go to the water park. You go over to Dancing Rabbit. Maybe you play the slots at Silver Star, Golden Moon Casino. You play the table games, watch all the big games, do it all there. And we appreciate them for being, again, with us here on Cover Crimson. All right, guys, we'll talk to you again. Hey, got a great show coming up with Jake Coker, Elephant in the Room, so make sure you check that out. Also, you can catch all of these on the Cover Crimson Podcast Network, which is wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, everywhere else. So get on there and throw a download for us, so it's a daily thing. So we're popping for you every day. But roll Tide, and we'll talk to you guys again soon.
To Pearl River Resort.